friends, Jeannie here today to share 6 different cards using Trinity Stamps, a Crafter's Heart stamp set, along with the Quilted cover die and stencils. Since a lot of cards are being geared up for Valentine's Day, I thought it'd be perfect time to pull out this unconventional heart. The main image in the stamp set is a heart filled with all these crafty items and art supplies. It's perfect to create a card for any crafty friend. So for 5 of the 6 images that I'm stamping today, I am using Ink on 3's Juicy ink, adding Artic White embossing powder, and then heat setting it. And for my last and 6th image, I decided to switch it up by using Ink on 3's Blackout ink. So there is a coordinating die for the stamp set, but I don't have it. So I went ahead and fussy cut everything out. And I don't mind fussy cutting, and it's pretty much a simple heart. I did kind of go along the edges of all the little crafty items, but you don't have to. You can just cut it in a heart shape if you wanted to. So for the background of my first card using the black outline image, I'm using Ink on 3's Trinity Teal Atelier Ink. This ink color is actually named after Trinity stamps, so I thought it was perfect, and I thought it was really cool to incorporate that color into this card as well. So I'm just inking up this panel relatively quickly and not working too hard to get a smooth blend because we'll be using a cover plate die on it anyway, which will give it additional texture, and the heart will cover up most of the background. So I didn't really think that I needed a super smooth blend. I also think that not having it super smooth gives it additional character as well. For the heart itself, because I wanted to keep this image black and white, I just went in with my blending buddy and a gray distress ink just to kind of give the heart dimension, and that just kind of creates more of that black and white effect. For the sentiment strip, I'm using a white cardstock scrap and going in and covering it up with the Trinity Teal color. I'm going to go ahead and take one of the sentiments from the stamp set and stamp it directly on that strip. For the background, I ran it through with the Quilted cover die, and it adds all these little lines to it, which has the texture of a little quilt. And there's the Stencil trio that coordinates with this die, and it has either hearts, stars, or dots. And I thought the stars didn't go with it. If I added the hearts, it would be too many hearts, so I went with the dot. I'm using Nouveau Glacier Paste in Winter White to add using the stencils, and it leaves these really pretty, almost foiled effect to the quilt, and I think it looks really nice. So I sped everything up, but you do have to set it aside to dry. Once it's dry, I went ahead and adhered the heart directly onto the card panel. I trimmed down that sentiment strip and adhered it, and that's my first card. So this is very easy to do. You can use any different kind of paste. You can use glitter if you wanted to, and later on I will show how I use the die without the stencil if you're not able to get it. So for the hearts, because I had heat embossed everything, it will be ink resistant to my blending. So I'm adding all this color onto it and blending it, and all the images will show through because you had heat embossed it. Once I add any ink onto this, I will grab a dry napkin and wipe off any excess ink. That first heart was Trinity Teal with Sweet Petunia Pink. And for all my hearts, I will have all the ink colors I am using listed down below. A lot of the Ink on 3 products that I am using today are also carried in the Trinity store. So everything's all in one place for you if you're interested in the supplies. For my second heart, I decided to do kind of a rainbow. I had so many different hearts to do that I was just playing around with different color combinations, but I couldn't resist using typical rainbow colors, and I thought it was really pretty. I think that this heart just works really well for any kind of cards. You can use it for any crafty friend or any kind of friend at all because there are different sentiments that go along with it. I believe one of them just says, you inspire me, which is an awesome uplifting sentiment to have. And I think that there are other ones that are craft related, which is nice to have different options for these images. I am just going through and quickly showing you my different color combinations. It was really fun just to kind of play around with all the different colors. There's not too many different colors in the Ink on 3 Atelier line, but I think that these colors are enough for you to be able to create a ton of cards. Part of the reason why I decided to create 6 cards was because one of my New Year's resolutions is to use up my crafty stash. And in my crafty stash, I have a ton of paper that I'm trying to use up. And one of my resolutions from last year was not to buy any more paper, which I haven't really, only Essential White for card bases and things like that. But I still have a ton of paper and I really don't know what to do with it except for using it up. I am trying to create more cards and just using up what I have and actually diminishing down my stash. So we'll see how that goes. So for the sentiment, I went ahead and pulled out 3 and I'm stamping them twice because I have 6 cards. And I just, grab a piece of white paper, I put it into my MISTI, flip my card panel upside down, and I'll have 6 sentiments, which I will trim down into strips. Since I have all my colors picked out, I'm going to run most of them through my die machine with my cover plate. The yellow cardstock that you see in the upper right hand corner actually is a very subtle embossed pattern paper that I got in a pack from Michael's, and it's just a scrap I had and it was perfect, so I wanted to use it up as well. For that card, it actually had a tear on it, so I trimmed it down and I'm adding it on a white card base. And then I'm going to adhere the heart directly on there and then add the sentiment in the middle. So all these cards are very similar in the sense that it's a card panel, the heart goes on top, and then the sentiment strip will go onto the card. The only difference is the backgrounds that I create to go with the hearts. The remaining 4 cards I have are using the quilted pattern die. And if you don't have the stencil, you don't need it. You can just get the cover plate if you want. And for this particular card, I'm actually popping up the heart on foam tape. And I'm doing that because I decided that I was going to use embellishments in replacement of the stencils. Anywhere the lines are intersecting or where the stencil dots would go, I'm adding glue. I'm using this embellishment from Trinity Stamps. It's called Wintry White. And I'm just going in and adding the embellishments wherever there is an intersection. So it's a good way of using up your embellishments as well as decorating the card and adding a ton of interest. So I thought that it ended up being really pretty. So for this panel, I used the medium size embellishments. And then once I was finished, I added the sentiment and that's complete. For the second card that I'm using embellishments as well, I went with a smaller embellishment and it has a more subtle look. It almost looks like they're little pearls on that background. But I did the same thing, adhered the heart, added the sentiment strip. For my last 2 cards, I am going in with the glacier paste, just like my very first card. I'm just carefully making sure all the little dots are covered up. And this is the first time I've really used this little craft station, and it's magnetic, so the magnets hold down the stencil. I would just say to be very careful when you lift the stencil, because if you shift it at all, then you kind of ruin the paste that you had put down. For this background in particular, the gray one, I kind of messed up. You can't see it on the video, but if you looked really closely in person at the card, you'll notice. But you know what? I think that that's okay. It gives it a little bit more character. It doesn't have to be 100% perfect. Like every other card, I'm just adding the heart and then adding the sentiment. I did the same thing with this craft cardstock background. I used the glacier paste, and with the power of editing, I sped up the drying process, and I have 6 cards. So let me know which color combinations you like, if you have a favorite. If not, these are perfect cards for you to create for your crafty friends. So I hope you enjoyed the video today, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.